Hi, my name is David. Thanks for stopping by Prepare911.com. Today we want to talk about 4 communication mistakes that are easy to make. So let's get started.
During turbulent times, you step into the fray to protect yourself and those you love. Go to Prepare911.com for more information.
4 common communication mistakes that are easy to make. Number 1, I call it get it and forget it. This means, you have taken some time, you've done your research, you've shelled out a couple of $100 on your really fancy new ham radio. You bought it, you're good to go, right? One handy-talkie solves the world's problems for communication. You put it in your bag and you never worry about it again. This is the first common communication mistake. Ham radio equipment is complicated. Even if you buy GMRS or CB equipment, that can also be complicated. What we want to make sure that you don't do is just buy it and forget it. So here's some things that you need to bear in mind when it comes to your communications and how not to make this mistake. First, if you buy a ham radio, join a local ham radio club if one is in your area. Go over to the ARRL website and look to see if there are any ham radio clubs in your area. Once you get plugged into a club and you start working with other professionals who have been doing this for years, you're gonna catch the spark. You're gonna catch some enthusiasm about this new fancy ham radio that you bought, and you're gonna start using it more. So help not make this common mistake by joining a local ham radio club. You can also eliminate this common mistake by incorporating your ham radio into your daily routine. Go out and start monitoring some frequencies. See what people are saying. See what people are talking about. See how far you can hear, what stations you hear, what's going on inside your area. All of that is available with your ham radio. You've already spent the money on it, so go ahead and get started with it. By getting plugged into a club, you may also find out about ham radio contests that are going on inside your area. This will allow you to participate with other hams, see how far you can reach, and hear about other people's experience about the conditions in your area. So help not make the common mistake number 1 by participating in ham radio contests. Finally, the biggest one of all, test your equipment regularly. Make sure that your battery is charged. Plug it in, hook it up, monitor, even if it's just listening to the local weather station or it's listening to FM radio. Use your ham radio to do that so that you'll become comfortable with changing frequencies, using the knobs. Even if you don't have your ham radio license, you can still listen in and monitor what's going on. So you don't even have to press the push to talk button. You can simply listen to what's going on around you on your ham radio. This is going to help prevent you from making mistake number 1, buying it and forgetting it. Mistake number 2, not having the appropriate license. Now, there are some radios that require no licensing at all. For example, an FMRS, or Family Service Radio, doesn't require any special license as long as you are on the FMRS channels. You'll notice it's got a really short antenna, and even though the literature may say this is going to talk 30 miles, that has not been my experience. These, I'm lucky to get about a half a mile to 3/4 of a mile with this particular radio. So, if you have a CB, it's not going to require a license. But if you decide to invest into a full size ham radio or handy-talkie or something larger, it's going to require a license. And I would really encourage you to get at least the GMRS license. Sometimes the ham radio tests can be really intimidating. The 35 questions, they're talking about theory. The good news is all of those test questions and the answers are publicly available. So they come from a pool of 400 and something. So out of the 400, you're going to get 35 random questions if you choose to take your technician's test, which there are 3 tests in ham radio: technician, general, and amateur extra. So I would highly encourage you, go get your license. Now, Midland builds a whole series of GMRS radios that have pretty high power outputs, 25, 40, and even up to 50 watts, which theoretically means you could be able to talk up to 50 miles with the radio. However, it requires a GMRS license, which means you have to head over to the FCC website, plop down a small amount of money, and sign up. And they'll give you a call sign, and you'll need to use that call sign at the end of your communication, or at least once every 15 minutes when you're talking. The good news is that license covers your entire family. All right, we're moving on. Number 3. So they buy this very cool ham radio. Now they think they're good to talk. They know how to use it. They know how it works. Unfortunately, with this small antenna and with this small amount of power output, which this one is around 5 watts, you're not going to be able to reach out and talk all that far. The good news is there's a couple things that you can do to help you reach out and get further with your ham radio. So the first thing would be simply remove the antenna off your ham radio and find a great adapter. I got this one at Ham Radio Outlet. If you take your radio and go by there, they'll show you what adapter that you need in order to connect up your ham radio to a regular coaxial cable that you can use to attach to an antenna. Here's some antenna line. You'll notice this has got 2 male connectors over here, and I could screw this female connector directly into the male connector. This gives me about 20 feet or 25 feet that I could then run out to another antenna. I carry with me this small ladder line antenna. It's called ladder line because it kind of looks like a ladder. It's specially designed for 2 meter and 70 centimeter, which is what I would normally be talking on with a handy-talkie in my local area. I can take this antenna, which is much larger than this one, and put this up in the top of a tree. I would take some cord, tie it over a rock, send it sailing over the top of a tree. Once the cord drops down, tie it to the top of the antenna, hoist this antenna with the cable connected to it up into the tree, and not only will it increase the elevation of the antenna, which means that I've got a much further line of sight, but it's going to ensure that I'm able to receive much more communication just because of the line of sight. Also, this antenna is far superior to the rubber duck type antenna that's connected to my normal handy-talkie. If you are going to be moving around inside of a city, or if you're going to be moving around in your vehicle a lot, I would strongly encourage you to go ahead and get a vehicle mounted ham radio once you already have your technician's license. On your vehicle, because it's powered by a much larger battery, you're going to be able to get a far superior power output than what you could get in the small battery connected here. For example, on many vehicle mounted ham radios, you can connect and get up to 100 watts of power out of the normal battery that goes inside just a normal traditional person's car. Now, you may have to take your vehicle to a special shop in order to have them connect this into your battery system, run the cables, and mount the radio. But the good news is that once it's connected, you're going to be able to talk far further than you could with this radio by having a vehicle mounted antenna, which could likely be either a whip antenna or something that mounts on the roof of your vehicle. This is going to let you talk a long way. Also, on those radios and on your traditional 2 meter and 70 centimeter radios, you're going to be able to tune them in and talk to a repeater. Now, I have talked across a repeater with this radio, with this adapter connected to an antenna outside my vehicle. A simple rubber duck antenna is not going to work great inside your vehicle because your vehicle is made of metal and it's going to reflect some of the signal off. If you have an exterior mounted antenna inside your vehicle with a cable running inside your vehicle, then you're going to be transmitting from outside your vehicle, and frankly, there are many books that talk about exactly where to mount your antenna on your car so that you can get the optimum amount of reflection off of your vehicle to help get your signal out. If you are moving around inside a vehicle and you have your technician's license, I would strongly encourage you to get a vehicle mounted ham radio. There's just, hands down, it's a great way to talk. And if something happens, you're going to be able to reach out way further with it. Mistake number 4, not having a rock solid communication plan. So if you go over to prepare911.com, click on the resources, you can get a copy of the booklet called Mini Bug Out Bag. Inside the Mini Bug Out Bag on page 5 and page 6, there's a whole list of information in there that walks you through how to create a communication plan with your family. It provides areas for you to write down phone numbers so that you can contact people that may be numbers that you don't dial very often. But when the phone lines go down, and that can happen in many emergencies, and the cell towers become jammed, that's when having a rock-solid communication plan and something to fall back to really saves your bacon. While times are good, now is the time to prepare and to test them and to see how they function. You do this by going to Google, finding out what repeaters are in your area. There are places you can go online, such as repeaterbook.com. You can download a list of all the frequencies and their settings for all the repeaters in your area. You can use the repeaters both in your car-mounted ham radio and in your handy-talkie. This means as long as you can reach the repeater is going to retransmit your signal from a much higher elevation using a lot of wattage that you don't have access to in your vehicle to a much broader area. And here's the best part. When someone replies back and they may not be able to hear your radio or your vehicle, but it may be able to very well communicate with the repeater, and then you'll both hear the repeater sending that information back out. So look up on the internet. While times are good, go to repeaterbook.com, download a list of all the repeaters in your area. If you have that GMRS license that we talked about earlier, there are GMRS repeaters. Now, if you're going to be using a CB or FMRS, those don't use repeaters. But GMRS, there are GMRS repeaters. Go out, get the information now. Next, write all of it down. You can also go over to Amazon and purchase a book that has a repeater list of all the widely known repeaters in the United States separated by area. This means that if you're traveling to an area that you have never been to before and you don't have those frequencies, or you don't know what those frequencies are, and there's an emergency, say you only go there every now and then. If you have that repeater book with you, you can simply, you'll know which area you're in, you can look it up in the repeater book, then you can program your radio and dial into those frequencies so that you should be able to reach someone in that local area. At least that's the plan. Now, ham radios are fairly complicated. How you get into the menu, offsets for repeaters can get pretty difficult to figure out at times. Which is why, while everything is up, while you have access to the internet, while you have access to YouTube, learn how to program all this information into your radios now, so that when it drops, you will know and understand how to use repeaters, how to get a hold of the people that you need to get a hold of, how to make a mayday call if you need to be able to do that. And then you're going to be in a much better position to respond to an emergency when it does happen. And believe you me, in the United States, we have some crazy weather. We are having strange things happening. There's a lot of civil unrest going on. So if you don't prepare now, waiting until you get in the middle of that incident is not the time where you want to be trying to figure out how to program a repeater into your ham radio so that you and someone you care about get a hold of each other. So listen, I want to thank you for stopping by Prepare911.com. Stay safe, God bless you, and God bless the Republic.